So I'm getting ready to post the office hours that I'm going to hold, and we've had a wide range of people who have had different times and days of the week that work best for them. So I'm going to try and pick the one that works best for as many people as possible. So along those lines, though, what I want to do is answer a few more of the questions that I got in case you can't make the office hours or you can't make any other meeting where we talk about law enforcement career stuff. So I'm going to answer a couple of the law enforcement career questions as well as the general questions about police officers. There is some crossover in that, so I think hopefully we'll get as much information out to you guys as possible. So some of the short answer one says, how old do you need to be a police officer? In the state of California, you need to be 21 years old. So you can enter the police academy at 20 and a half because it's a 6-month academy, and you can come out and be a police officer at 21, but that's the youngest. Says, what kind of law enforcement jobs work with mental health? Depending on what capacity, pretty much all of them at this point. If you're considering a corrections part of law enforcement, there's a mental health component there. Like the sheriff's department, especially LA County Sheriff, they will actually work at some county hospitals. So that question's kind of broad, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get the right answer to it, but that's a good one that we could probably discuss in a class setting. It says, are higher wages determined by education level for the same position? Every department's different. So, for example, my department, the Los Angeles Police Department, does give you a pay bump depending on education level, but some agencies have a different structure. So that one is going to be agency by agency. This one I thought was really important because a few people have mentioned the FBI. It says, I want to join the FBI, but I need 2 years of experience first. I don't want to be a police officer. What should I do? Someone else had mentioned the FBI, but having to go into law enforcement first. You don't have to go into law enforcement. I can't speak definitively on what the requirements for the FBI are, but what I can tell you is they do want, there's certain professional degrees that are more attractive. I know when I looked at the FBI, this is like 20 years ago, accounting degrees were a good one, international relations. When they talk about experience, they're talking about some kind of experience in that field of study. For example, if you have an accounting degree, they want you to have at least 2 years of experience in some kind of practice where you're doing accounting. There's a good question here. What benefit is an administration of justice degree? That one may be its own video down the road because I can talk for a long time about that. Now on to some general questions. What do they get paid and what are the requirements? So there are 3 major requirements for law enforcement. You need to have no felony convictions, be 21 or older, and have a driver's license. The reason no felony convictions is because in the state of California currently, you cannot legally possess a firearm if you're a convicted felon. You have to have a driver's license because you need to drive the police cars, and you have to be 21 because it's the minimum age. As far as what they get paid, once again, that varies per agency, and that's all over the country. California, on average, is going to be one of the higher paid states in terms of agency to agency, but even within California, there's a wide range. So we can talk a little bit more about that because that's probably going to be a question that a lot of you guys have, but it's going to depend on which agency and which part of law enforcement you're looking to go into. How long is the training for general police officers? Most academies in California are going to be about 6 months, and that's set by the state of California. It's the Peace Officer Standards and Training, POST. You can go on their website, and they have a lot of information on that. How many are female, and how dangerous is it to be one? The last time I checked, I want to say it's either 19 or 29%. I think it's 19% of sworn officers are female. I'll tell you what, and so my department's pretty progressive. We have a good representation of females. I think historically, maybe attitudes towards women may not have been encouraging women to go into law enforcement, but I know my department's been very, very forward about trying to make sure we diversify. My personal experience is I think women are great in law enforcement. They definitely will handle every situation different. And that there's a really good experience in terms of working with female police officers and how they will go about, especially with someone who doesn't want to go along with the program or who might be combative, because oftentimes a female officer may not initially try and resort to physicality to convince someone who doesn't want to go to jail to get into our custody. So, but in terms of how dangerous, That's a really broad question. Law enforcement can be viewed as dangerous, but there's a lot of things we do to mitigate those risks. So I'll save that one probably more for our in-class discussion so I can get a little more specificity on that. This is a good question that'll probably wait for later, but should I get my college education now or wait later if I become an officer? It depends on what you want to do. I'm a big proponent of education. Obviously, I'm teaching you guys, but I've had one of my students who was in my classes at El Camino who was working through getting her degree. I recommended she come on the job because she can start working. There is some reimbursement through our department for education, so as long as you are, you think, working a full-time job, which is going to be difficult, and going back to school, if you think you can do both of those, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And then so there's one, do police and sheriff go through the same training? For the most part, yes. California has a standardized training, so I'd say at least 80 to 90% of the training you're getting is going to be the same. Sheriffs may be a little different because they deal with things like courts and custody, so county jails are all sheriff, as well as patrol functions. So I hope this answers some question. I'm going to post this in an announcement, and I will have the specific day and time, and I'm going to do those open office hours so we can have more of a class discussion. If you can't make it to that office hour, don't stress. I'm going to try and have at least one or two more this semester, and I will record that and post a link to it in our class. But thanks a lot for the participation, guys, and I will look forward